You know your way around the competitive gaming scene and are willing to take a risk? Watch regular broadcasts and earn real money. esportsbets.com. Foresight, passion, and calculation.
Sideline of goal! Lakewood are doing it! They're gonna take! He's gonna bring down Bernie. Alone with a double kill. Dropping fast. Monopoint's there. He's still alive! Wait, Oshek is right. He's got one sub. He's got a second. He's taking it. Oh my God! On three! They're all dead!
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls from all around the world, we've got the biggest of the matches coming up next. Our third for the day of Starladder EU Day 1 coverage for this season. But we have the debut of Team Secret, Puppy, Kuro, S4, Big Daddy, and Fly, facing off against the new alliance with Chessie and Misery here as stand-ins, as we saw earlier today. Umzayori joined once again by the one and only Cinderin. Does it get any more hype than this, Cinderin? Apparently so. He's so excited.
I had to do that.
Yeah.
That was just such an obvious setup.
Bested again.
I'm excited. I hope you are too.
Yes.
It's kind of ironic that the team is called Secret, but it hasn't really been that secret at all when you think about it. Well, I guess they like the irony of it, but still, it's going to be an incredible match to watch. I'm very curious, as I was for the previous Alliance game in particular, where they had two stand-ins playing. This is a little more mixed, I guess we could say, because there's only two players from the same team. We have Big Daddy and Fly, who used to play for Fnatic. We've got Puppy and Kuroki, who used to play for Na'Vi, and then we've got S4, who used to play for Alliance. So it's kind of a little bit more of a mix, but not that much. And as far as the players go, they're all incredibly experienced. Now, there's a couple of things we should probably mention about this, at least from what I expect about it. Fly is supposedly going back to playing carry, which is what he used to do, I believe, in Heroes of New Earth. He's played support in Fnatic for the entirety of Dota 2, but he is going back to his roots. I believe Kuroki will start playing core again as well, which is what he got. He was widely regarded as the best player in Dota at one point, playing solo mid mainly.
Okay.
And that means, how do we place the others? Is it going to be Big Daddy support with Puppy and S4 in the off lane, or is S4 still playing mid and Kuroki's off laner? Well, yeah. I guess we'll have our answer pretty soon.
It's a good question. When we talked about it in the studio, we had sort of thought that Kuroki would be back on carry and something more like Fly on the off lane. But as I've talked to more folks, it seems more likely that Fly will actually be the carry. It's really hard to say, and this is one of those that I think we'll just have to be a little patient here and wait for the draft to commence and figure out what's going on here. But an interesting... go ahead.
Judging from the first pick IO, I would say it's probably Big Daddy on support. That's not to say Kuroki doesn't play a good Wisp, because he really does. He's played it a lot and is extremely good at it, just like Big Daddy is. But we're expecting him to be in a core position. So the fact that they pick it this early, it's not one of Puppy's favorite supports by any stretch, I think. He generally doesn't play it. So if they pick it that early, it's probably Big Daddy supporting.
Yeah. And it's interesting to see the IO Tiny opener. Not many teams right now are even running Tiny IO except for very specific niche strategies. And to have it first picked in that opener is just a rarity. And I'm already excited to see what they have in store for the rest of this draft. Some of the classic pieces of Fnatic here being transferred to Team Secret.
Yeah, this is, the opening for Alliance is very standard though, right? The Skywrath Void was kind of a flavor of the first week of TI4. I said TI4, I did it this time.
There you go, all right.
Yay, I'm learning. But it kind of fell out of favor during the tournament. In the later stages, these two were not really picked that much together, but it seems like Alliance still wants to stick with it. And IO Tiny is such a classic combination. You really can't deny that whenever No-Tail plays the IO in that lane, it just seems like it goes out of control. So yeah. I wouldn't be surprised to see Kuro and Big Daddy grouping up in the mid lane with that dual lane, for example. But also want to point out, was Chessie drafting in the previous game for Alliance? Or Was it someone else? Because it's very unusual that someone who stands in and is rumored to join the team suddenly takes over the drafting when it's his first competitive Dota 2 games.
Yeah. You know, actually, someone
That's
tweeted at me after the first
interesting.
game and said, you need to tell us who the drafters are because the overlay covers it up, and I honestly did not look at it in the first game. So I have to say the sorry I don't know here, but you're absolutely right. A stand-in and also a player who is sort of new to Dota 2 in the context of most of the other players around here, as he's just switched from Honda. So to see him drafting shows that Alliance have a lot of faith in Chessie, or you never know, it could also just be the team effort and he happens to be the one clicking the button. A little hard to say, but interesting nonetheless.
Yeah, and I have to apologize to the people watching in game because me restarting Dota 2 apparently switched off my open mic. So
That's
it wasn't
sync
on
issue.
until now, but now you can hear it.
At least we're in
again,
Dota TV
Twitch
this
chat
time, though.
for
We got our
pointing it out.
issues dealt with. Or actually, I don't know why I'm saying we. You got your issues dealt with. I was ready to rock and roll. That was
We all
Cinder
know you
fail.
have issues too.
Yeah, it's true enough. True
I'm
enough.
not even going to deny it.
Alliance will settle on Viper for their third pick here. Another Viper showing, and of course a strong lane dominator here to try and help deal with possibly a tiny IO in the mid lane. But whoa, Team Secret with Bane, another hero we haven't seen a hell of a lot of recently.
Yeah, wondering what the reasoning is so far. There's no obvious reason why you would get Bane so far. There's no... Well, you can enfeeble Void or Viper in the lane, which is a really big problem for them since they only have physical damage, so that could be part of the reason. But there's no sort of classic combination here with Bane so far.
Could be a Mirana fourth pick that
Could
they're
be a
looking
Mirana
for.
fourth. I was about to say, that's definitely an option they have. And well, if they wanted that, they could also pick the Mirana first and wait with the Bane, because what are the odds Alliance gets a Bane Skywrath combo? But maybe they feel like they would be giving more information away by getting the Mirana pick. It could be anything right now. It could really be anything. The reasoning here, maybe it's something we're not thinking about at all.
Well, Alliance they seem a little stumped as well. They'll burn most of their reserve time here and finally settle on the Earthshaker as their second support.
So, Earthshaker, Skywrath Mage. It's the support duo we saw played in the previous game from Album Sheet. They weren't really that successful with it. We'll see if Alliance can do a better job. What I like about their Void draft, we were talking about in the previous Alliance game why they shouldn't pick Void. This is a really good Void draft. Skywrath Mage is excellent synergy. They have a mid laner, probably the Viper here, which is great synergy because he's ranged and can hit people inside the Chronosphere. And then you have Shaker, who's, yes, the Echo Slam is very hard to pull off very nicely with the Chrono, but it's great to have the Fissure to set it up, or to have the Chronosphere followed up by a Fissure for the extra stun, and then you blink in for the Echo Slam. So all of Alliance's lineup is very well-rounded, good support duo, good cores, but how well do they fare against an IO Tiny? I'm still missing that kind of counterplay from Alliance apart from Fissure.
Yeah, I mean, Disruptor is kind of an obvious support counter against the Lisp that some teams like to run, and also has some okay synergy with the Void, but okay, Team Secret, they go for the Storm Spirit here as their second core.
Yeah, it's a bold pick when you're picking it into a Fissure, a Skywrath Silence, and a Chrono.
Yeah.
But it could work, and it just goes to show that, like, we were also surprised by the Bane, and we don't really know what to think, so I would assume it's the same for Alliance. Like, they don't know what they're dealing with, like, what are their plans?
I wonder if the Bane is kind of bait for a fifth ban Mirana here, if they have something else in their sights. That seems like the obvious ban, but I think if Team Secret really wanted the Mirana, they would have picked it fourth. Storm Spirit, I just feel like, was not a very likely fifth ban from Alliance, if that's what they were afraid of.
I agree 100%.
So, whoa, Elder Titan, okay. So a totally different approach or Alliance at least is taking a different approach to this draft.
Well, since Secret is on the Radiant, they could run an Elder Titan offlane with great success, and Alliance are assuming that it's the offlaner missing, which seems likely at this point, right? Bane is usually a support, IO Tiny is pretty much the classic lane, and then Storm Spirit will never go in the offlane. So
yeah.
What I'm thinking right now is whether Secret are actually thinking about running a Bane offlane. And the reason I am is because he's Radiant. That's the only reason, else I would never consider it. But on the Radiant offlane, Bane could actually go and leech some experience, just block the wave, try to do some shenanigans, and bother Alliance up there in general. And then if he comes in range, he can enfeeble the Void and mess up his farm.
Yeah.
And then they can run another support, because as far as cores go, Tiny and Storm easily carry into the mid-late game without a problem. So the offlaner, whoever it is, whether the last pick is the offlaner or the Bane, does not need to have core qualities. It needs to have disables or control for the early mid game, and then they're good.
Yeah, I worry about Bane in the solo offlane, even on the side of Radiant, with a Skywrath and Earthshaker. That's a lot of long range and just a lot of burst damage they can put down. And even Void has a gap closer. It'll be a struggle. Not impossible, but it'll be Strug City up there. And maybe it'll all come into focus as we see these final picks come out. But Team Secret will opt to ban out the Slark with their final.
What do Alliance need? I think they might actually want their last hero to even be another counter to the Storm, or to deal with Iotiny. Now, the obvious choice for that, like you said, Disruptor would have been a really good pick, but I think they're looking for a core.
It could be a core Skywrath. It could be
Disruptor, or Skywrath core, yeah.
Yeah, so it could still be a Disruptor last pick if they wanted to go solo mid with the
Enigma.
Skywrath and then offlane the Viper. They don't have a great offlaner for the Dire side right now. That's what I worry about. Tide would have been a really solid offlane choice, but of course he's been banned out by Team Secret. And Alliance will have to decide here in just a couple of seconds, and they'll take the Mirana. I guess afraid that Secret were angling for it, and maybe they're playing right into Secret's hand here, as we were talking about moments ago.
It's really not an easy game to be Mirana offlane if she's solo. Going against Bane with any sort of hero who's dependent on that kind of escape ability is so difficult, because the way you usually deal with playing the offlane is that you know there's some sort of limit of how far you can go, because pretty much every single hero that has a disable on level 1, the stuns are generally between 1.5 and 2.5 seconds, right? But Bane's is 4, and that means that whenever you get the positions you're usually safe in, you're not safe in against Bane. And for Mirana, that's extremely important, because that means the gap you're used to being able to close with Leap just isn't the same anymore. And if they want to run an offlane solo, I think any of their heroes will actually get crushed. So maybe they're thinking about an aggressive tri lane, or they feel like they can completely sack one of their heroes, but then who would you choose? Do you want to have a very low-level Mirana against these kind of heroes? There's so much catching power on Secret. Storm, Relocate, Hookshot, even Fiend Script. Like, it's not an easy game for Mirana to come back in. Or do you try the aggressive tri lane?
Yeah.
Alliance did it last game.
Yeah, it's a good question. Maybe they'll go for the aggressive tri lane. They certainly have some kill potential with Mirana, Earthshaker, and Skywrath.
10 seconds.
I honestly feel like that's their best bet, because I don't see any way they can put someone solo down there and not have them be completely zoned out. Even if they don't concede any deaths, we're looking at a 0 experience, 0 last hit kind of a scenario, and none of these heroes really retreat to the jungle. That's one of the powers of the Bat Rider, where he can find that recovery in the jungle, but none of these heroes really have that luxury. So we'll see, but interesting. The casual Bane pick. It will be Puppey on the Bane, Big Daddy, of course, on the Wisp. That leaves us with S4 on the offlane Clockwork here, rocking the RoboCop skin. I like the way that looks. We've got Fly on the Storm Spirit. He's tagged up as Pifa. I don't know what the hell that means, but he is that is Fly nonetheless. And it will be Kuroki on the core Tiny here in the mid lane with that very strange one cosmetic, but it is the immortal Crystal Dryad that looks just so derpy.
It looks funny until you get the tree, then it looks real. And for Alliance, they're all smoking up into the Radiant jungle. It's going to be Loda playing the Mirana, so kind of a hint that it's not a solo offlane Mirana. Misery will be playing as the Earthshaker. Aki onto Skywrath Mage. Admiral Bulldog on the Void, interesting. And Chessie will be playing the mid lane once again with the Viper as in the previous game. But is he really, though? Because those items on Viper do not look like a mid lane Viper build.
No, certainly not. The Ring of Protection is usually a side lane opener, so you can get that fast Basilius and then fly out the Aquila. Mid lane doesn't work quite the same way. Some trees will get cleared out here as Big Daddy comes forward. Fissure on 2. Arrow flies through. They split. If that arrow had hit, it would have been a first blood, but it will whiff, and Alliance will be unsuccessful in this invade gank.
The gank itself was unsuccessful, but they managed to put out the aggressive ward, which is a big part of the invasion. You don't invade with the intention generally of getting a kill, because it's unreliable. Maybe the enemy team isn't there, or you just fail the gank, or they have really evasive heroes. But the main reason for invading is to block the jungle and set the tone of the lane. And it is indeed going to be an aggressive tri lane from Alliance, so they want to block the pull here and generally just get some intel on the Radiant jungle, so they know what they can get away with here. And with an Invis rune on Misery here on level 1, Storm is very fragile in the early stages of the game. Low health pool. He's got 5 armor, which is decent, but he could very easily be the victim of the first blood here with a good fissure.
Yeah, and look at Misery's positioning. He's ready to block them in. Storm very elusive once he hits level 6, but this will be tricky. They'll go for Puppey instead. Storm will walk away, and do they have the damage to bring him down? Loda connects with the point-blank arrow. It's not a very long stun. A few more right clicks will bring him down. First blood secured as Ake is the one that grabs the additional gold. So already the aggressive tri-lane from Alliance working well, but can they do it again is the question. The invisibility rune giving them the edge they needed there to make it a pretty easy kill.
They're playing 3-on-2, so they better win this lane, right? The question is what the trade-off is. Alliance has chosen to put Bulldog in the mid lane with the Void, and he's going to have a hard time against the dual lane, obviously, but just in the very early stages, Void is a surprisingly strong laner. With a Stout Shield and with Backtrack, it's hard to deal significant damage. And importantly, against something like Avalanche, where you often have heroes, or a hero like TA comes to mind, where having multiple instances of damage is a really good way of dealing with refraction, but the defensive capability of Void is purely based on chance, nothing else. So having multiple instances of damage is not better or worse than having one big source against the Void, in theory. Or, well, depends how lucky you are with the Backtrack, right? I don't. Well, depends how you look at it. But regardless, he's going to be getting something here in the mid lane, and then in the top lane, Alliance have a Viper against the Clock, which should be a very easy lane for the Viper.
It should be, but right now the CS is even 6-3 on a piece, basically. Clockwork sniping some less hits with the Rocket. He is going for a Rocket Flare primary build, which is keeping him in the lane, at least for now, but we see S4 getting zoned out by Chessie, and as experience comes out, it should get more and more one-sided for Viper. We see him actually skipping Corrosive altogether, getting those extra points and Poison Attack just to harass that much more effectively. But
bottom lane. Fly has been managed. He has managed to get boots and level 3 here. Is going to get fissured off, though. Very nice fissure from Misery.
Arcane Bolt flying through all the follow-up damage. Loda has an arrow available. Can he connect? He certainly will. Beautifully done, and it's another kill in this tri-lane for Alliance. And that'll take Team Secret down 0-2 to get things started.
The aggressive tri-lane so far from Alliance has proven to be a great investment. The big lane for Secret to come back, I don't really want to talk about it as a comeback just yet, but you know, they're off to a pretty bad start, losing 2 heroes in the bottom lane, but Io and Tiny can just make these incredible early mid-game performances. And how much are they getting? It's 10 CS on the Tiny, 6 on the Void of Bulldog, actually, so he's getting pretty good farm. Like, no one actually is getting really good farm in the mid lane, but all things considered, I would say definite advantage Alliance. And also based on the top lane, where Chessie will now, when he's starting to reach high levels, this Clockwork will not stand a chance in the lane.
Yeah. Puppey is smoked up right now. Only level 2, but has a point in Nightmare and Brain Sap. Skipping Enfeeble altogether. That was something we mentioned in the draft, is a lot of utility Bane can put out early on, and possibly why they picked him up, but he'll go aggressive. Nightmare to get things started. Kuroki is level 4, so can do a fair amount of burst damage, but Skywrath has already TP'd in. They won't even go for it. Just harassing Bulldog, and he'll be forced to time walk to safety, but an odd setup there. I guess they did the math and realized they wouldn't have the damage to bring him down before he could time walk out, so they just put him to sleep, and that's it. Ooh, Misery. Another invisibility rune on this Earthshaker. This time it gets scouted out, though. The Bane was right there, so I doubt he'll be able to do too much with it in context of what we saw for the First Blood, but a very powerful rune in the hands of Earthshaker in the early levels.
Definitely. Generally a powerful rune on Earthshaker, pretty much the entirety of the game. Fissure is just so crucial, and in the mid-late game, an Echo Slam where you're invisible is pretty amazing. So
yeah,
but
that's a good point.
I want to point out how well he's done it being on the runes. Like, it's one thing that he gets Invis, Haste, Invis, which you could say is a lucky rotation for the Shaker, but the fact is he's on point with his rune coverage here. And because of the way Alliance put their lanes, it's difficult for Secret to really contest the runes for now. So they're just taking full advantage of that. Now, this Invis might not bring too much with it, but even though he doesn't get the kill, look at where Fly is. It's like he can't even go in the lane with a safe laner in a 5-minute game.
Yeah,
he has 6 CS against 21. This bottom lane is completely falling apart for Secret.
Yeah, Mirana already has an Aquila, Brown Boots, and 650 gold to spare. We'll see what build Loda goes for, but already he's coming online. And also the rune control is just great news to stop Big Daddy from filling up that bottle. He's forced to bottle Crow here as he puts it onto old Cardi there. Top lane, S4 in some trouble. He throws out the cogs, but it just doesn't matter. The slows from Chessie are way too much. He's now hit level 6. Viper Strike to start it off secures an easy kill, and Alliance pull further in their head now. 3-0 as looks like we could see some more setup on Fly down bottom. No, Misery was thinking about throwing a Fissure, but we'll save it for another time.
We'll see how long. Looks like they're still hungry for the kill. At least Misery is sticking around here. He's not really looking to rotate toward the mid lane. It looks like they feel like it's okay that Tiny gets good farm, because they know their Viper and Mirana are doing well. And another thing to note is that Io and Tiny are obviously what Io brings Tiny is more attack and movement speed to stay on his target. But the heroes on the Alliance are actually fairly elusive. There's the Time Walk from Void, there's a Leap from Mirana, then they have the Disengage Fissure, and Viper has a lot of slows. Even through BKB, he can bother Kuroki, so trading farm and giving Io Tiny a lot here might not even be that big of a deal, and it usually is. That's the threat of Io Tiny, is when they get strong, they kind of take over the game, but I'm not even sure if they will. Kuroki's going to get chronoed and arrow.
Oh man, they get carried away by a Moonlight Shadow, but can they bring him down? Yes, they can. No Tail comes in, but just can't do enough to keep his buddy alive. S4 will hookshot forward, connects with the cogs on Loda, but he has a leap. He'll stand his ground, just lay in the right clicks, and there's no way they'll find a counter kill here. Alliance will make it a 1-for-0 exchange in the mid lane and take out that high-value target, who of course is the farming Tiny.
Good hookshot from S4 though here to save Big Daddy. I'm pretty sure he would have been a goner there as well from Alliance's rotation, but the hookshot and cogs pretty much disrupted the chase here from Alliance. However, they're still ahead by 4-0. They have 3,000 experience almost already. That's actually going really fast. 2,000 on the gold, and that's without claiming a tower. Just goes to show how much they're winning the lanes.
Yep.
And I'm still looking for... Oh.
Will they have the kill here? Toss in the air. They just don't have the damage. 1 point in backtrack is enough to buy him some time. They'll dive the trees. Support is inbound. Fissure comes in to disengage. Can Bulldog make the escape? He's fogged right now. Big Daddy taking a lot of damage from Ake. Kuroki will toss Misery out of the fray. Will Bulldog fall? Io finds it. Big Daddy will survive for now. Meanwhile, on the other side, Kuroki on the run, but no way he'll survive. Chessie joins the party, and he does get picked off. No Tail did TP back, and he actually survived it. It is a 1-for-1 Tiny for Void.
When he poured it out, he was standing in the... This is a very fun place. Like, this never happens. He was standing here in the middle of the lane, pouring out inside dire vision.
Well, they were all committed onto Kuroki, so I guess it worked out for him. But a close call. Only a few hit points to spare, and Secret will get their first kill on the board. But it does cost them their Tiny, who now has taken 2 tumbles, and it is going to slow down his farm a little bit. Just glancing at the net worth, he is seated at number 3 right now, 1,000 behind that of the Mirana.
Yeah, I'm wondering when we see Fly starting to get active. It's common for Storm that if you lose your lane, you play a little more farm intensive than if you're in the mid lane and you start roaming a lot. But I feel like his team is going to need him early on. He can't just stay here and farm for the next 10 minutes. Then I think the game is going to start falling apart. So when does Fly get involved, and is he on the active or the receiving end?
Arrow. This should be a dead Fly right here. Yep, certainly is. Killing spree comes out for Loda. And Moonlight Shadow popped for good measure as they disengage and could consider re-engaging if they were so inclined. But nope, they'll be happy with their 1 kill on Fly in this Storm. Now 0-2-0. He is now level 6, but continuing to find kills. That whole time, Chessie just farming away up top on this Viper. Happy as a clam as he commences the last hits.
Yeah, 51 CS for him as well as 2 kills, and that's including the TP rotation to the mid lane where he helped out. So he's definitely doing great this game so far in the Viper.
Yep, and even Bulldog has found an okay amount of farm. Only 15 CS, but 0, 1, and 2. He now has power treads, and he's level 7. I think that's the really important thing. He had that Chronosphere come out in an early timing and used it to great success. Fissure just harasses Big Daddy and Kuroki in the mid, and Alliance are angling to defend this tower if they overcommit for it.
Yeah, Kuro and Big Daddy will at least do whatever they can to force some sort of reaction here. Nice usage of the spirits here from Big Daddy. Great harassment going onto Bulldog. And maybe Secret will claim their first big objective of the game. The mid-tier 1 tower is always really important because it reduces the Dire's ability to take Roshan and it gives generally more map control, but the reinforcements have arrived. Chessie a little late on the TP though, essentially wasting it.
Yeah, so with that Secret will just disengage and he walks right back towards the top lane. I think Secret wanted to put the pressure on while they know the Chronosphere is on cooldown, which is a great idea. The problem is Alliance still have plenty of other heroes that can do a lot of damage and help break up the push. The Fissure is the big one, and also this Viper. Even without a Chronosphere, he is a force to be reckoned with now with 3 points in the Corrosive Skim. Focusing him down is that much more difficult. Now moving straight into the mech, has a buckler, and of course will grab the remaining pieces. S4 caught by the Fissure, will completely block him out. Bulldog hops forward, connects with the Time Walk. Arrow flies through as well, smacks S4 in the face, and sorry, little Clockwork, but you will die. Tier 1 tower in the mid gets denied. As you mentioned, still a minor victory for Secret, as that does get rid of the Roche access point, but the deny does limit the yield.
Dire's bottom tower is under attack.
Worth noting, though, is that Fly still got a bit of farm in that time, and it's only 26 CS in an 11-minute game, but he had a really hard lane, so I think this is okay for now on the Storm Spirit. I'm going to put a little I know I'm focusing on it a lot, but it's because Storm is such a tempo controller hero where either if you're playing the safe lane, you better get really good farm, or if you're not getting good farm, make space for someone else. Because with mediocre farm, this hero just isn't really that strong. And if you're running into Alliance's heroes in particular, they have silences, stuns, Chronosphere, Arrow. I would like to see some more activity coming out, and they also have Relocate available now on Big Daddy, so the opportunity to get pickoffs anywhere is there. If he jumps in and grabs someone with the Vortex, they can relocate in at the same time, boom, it's a kill. There's like no way of responding. Even TP support is generally going to be too late because this combo just kills people really fast.
Yeah. And Storm's one of those heroes, if he is grabbing that early momentum, as you're mentioning, usually the Orchid first is the way to go. But in games like this where you get the slow start and there are so many disables, silences, what have you, BKB is absolutely core. And I would be surprised to see him grab anything other than a BKB first item. But even with that said, he's pretty damn far off the mark. No pieces towards it yet, and only 600 gold to spare. Power Treads, Null Tally, and a couple of GG branches there. All Fly has to his name. So even if he wants to go BKB to be a little more aggressive and take some fights, we're 12 minutes in, and he is nowhere near a core item.
And I guess the same could be said for S4. He was playing the off lane, but we're used to seeing S4 with a little more farm than this, of course, because he's used to play the mid lane, which generally gets more farm, but he was in a one-on-one matchup. Only has 25 CS, though, because it was an impossible lane. Like, Clockwork just flat out doesn't win against Viper. It's one of the worst matchups for the hero. Yeah. So he doesn't have any items either. So who has the items? It's only Tiny. And you see it on the farm chart as well. Kuroki leading with 81. The next on Secret is 32. Yeah. On the Storm Spirit. They're just really trailing here. And if they start losing the map control, I'm starting to wonder where they will find the comeback farm as well.
Yeah, Tiny is a great late game carry with comeback potential, but you have to get there. He's stopped off for the Drum of Endurance, a worthy stop off, but that slows down his Ags timing. And for Tiny, not only does that open up all the potential for team fights and damage to structures, but it's also sort of his Battle Fury. Lets him farm with that cleave and just clear out the jungle so effectively. And he's still trying to come online and find that farming tool. S4, the trap has been set, but he doesn't. Right there, point blank arrow, Mystic Flare, and Clockwork will die before he even really knew what was going on. Pretty impressive first damage from Alliance as they now make it 8-1. 13 minutes into this game, holding on to their 2,000 gold and experience lead, grouping up for a tier 1 tower push here in the top lane.
Is there a trade available for Secret is the question. They're trying mid. Bulldog taking some good damage here. Actually even relocating behind him.
Wow, Courier flies in. Wow, this was an awkward play. Now Big Daddy, he'll just fall. He gets silenced. They should be able to bring him down at least. Yep, a few more right clicks. Ake once again secures the kill on that Skywrath Mage, and that was a little ambitious from Secret. I mean, they must have known that the Chrono had cooled down. It's been a long time since we've seen a Chrono. I don't know about that one.
The good thing for Secret, though, is that I think the TP support from Alliance that came in might have prevented them from taking the tier 1 top tower. Else they could have perhaps got that, but...
Okay.
Oh, arrow. Oh, it's going to connect on Fly!
Oh, no. The long-range stun, Misery coming in, and even the Echo Slam used for that. That was just kind of a in-your-face dunk right there from Misery. That stings a little bit.
Getting into their heads as at the same time Bulldog and Chessie gathering up to kill off S4. This game is just out of hand for Secret. It's impressive that they're only 3,000 gold behind, to be honest. They're 10 kills behind. 5,000 experience only. But of course, they did claim the tier 1 tower mid, so they're ahead on towers, which means there's more unclaimed gold for Alliance.
Yeah, of course, it does give them a little boost, but it was denied. So as these other tier 1 towers will fall, on the Radiant side of things, Alliance will really start to skyrocket their league. Loda pressuring the bottom tier 1, and even in the top lane, Chessie about to pressure that tower. Loda did stop off for a hand of Midas here. He went phase boots into a 14-minute Midas, but given they're so far ahead, I guess he figures, why not? I might as well accelerate my farm and tango with this Tiny, since we're about on point so far.
It's kind of a Cloud9-esque play, I would almost say. That would be a classic thing for a Cloud9 carry to do at this point. Feel like you're in control of the game, expand it. Extend your lead with a hand of Midas. And we'll see if it's the right choice. I'm not sure I agree with it in this case, because I think for now for Alliance it's about riding the momentum. It's controlling the map and reducing the tiny IO chance of a comeback, and I don't know if Midas is the right choice in this situation, but we'll see.
Arrow almost hits Kuroki there. That could have been bad news bears, but just barely whiffs and will hit a creep. But I do agree with you. Tiny is one of the strongest late game carries, and if they give him enough space, he will eventually recover and be a very scary threat. Of course, we're talking 45 minutes from now. Puppy will get caught in a chrono. Long range arrow flies through, And, well, they don't even need it, so they pick up a stray support. But, yeah, I mean, we're talking like 45 minutes in the future. Tiny will be absolutely huge. Can they get there is the question, and that's where just continuing to control the tempo is the name of the game for Alliance. They will group up in the mid lane here. Arrow flies through, won't connect on anyone, but still zones them a bit as they angle for some keen initiation. Void still with only level 1 Chrono. It is stuck on that long 2-minute cooldown. But double damage on Chessie will more than make up for it in this upcoming skirmish here.
Eggs for the Tiny 1300 away, I believe. Let me check. Yeah. So that's the first big item that Secret can look forward to. I don't think anything else is going to come up anytime soon. Alliance sitting on so much stuff to use in the team fights, all their AoE abilities. They have the mech advantage coming in from the Viper, who also has a DD right now. But they still know their limits. The moment this rocket hits, they know that having all their heroes on pretty much half health and having used the mech, there's no point in risking this right now. Keep controlling the map. And which is what Ake is doing exactly right now, just counter-warding, I believe, the only ward the Radiant even had on the map. They're playing in the dark.
Why? Oh, no. He zips forward looking for the Mirana. He can't find it. Now he's out of mana. Does have a TP scroll and a couple of bottle charges left, but this will be a great escape here. Mana pool pretty much empty. There should be an arrow available. Void hops forward. No Chronosphere. If he had a Chrono, that would have been a sure kill, but they just can't catch up to him. So Fly survives by the skin of his teeth and does pull a lot of attention to the top lane. That's a 5-hero rotation coming out of Alliance. So creating some space around the map. Well played.
Yeah, who's going to take the space, though? Kuro obviously is currently running around the jungle. I think the goal for Secret here is just to maximize their farm by having the Tiny in the jungle as much as possible. He can farm that very effectively, and then giving S4 some space on the lanes. They want the Clockwork to be able to initiate without just instantly dying. Like, it pretty much doesn't matter right now who S4 engages on and how. He just gets exploded, like, by these Alliance heroes. There's no way he can commit into a fight. But if he could at least get something like either a Blade Mail, so they hit themselves, or a tank ability item to stay alive, that would be a really big boon for Secret here.
Yeah, I
also,
like the,
want to point out, we haven't seen the Fiend script yet.
Yeah.
Now we will.
And Puppey had just hit level 6 before he got picked off before, but is there follow-up here? There's the relocate. Puppey takes a silence. They still secure the kill onto Mirana. It is Tiny that ends the streak and finds some bonus gold. Courier flying through. It won't get picked off. Mystic Flare comes in and will finish off the Wisp. Now Kuroki getting chopped down in the Chronosphere. There's an Echo Slam off to the side. Kuroki survives, just about to turn it around onto Bulldog, but Bulldog will go man mode and finishes him off. They lose their Skywrath in the fray on the opposite side of the fight, but Alliance will level it out. A 2-for-2 trade. Tiny and Wisp for the Skywrath and Mirana.
It's good to see Secret taking some initiative. This is what I was looking for them to try to find some sort of opening on the map and start using the relocate aggressively. It was Puppey who found the opening there with the Fiend script, and that's all it took for them to follow through with the relocate, a Storm jump, so Storm became a part of the fights as well. And while it was a 2-for-2, I think they should just be happy with that. Any even trade right now for Secret is actually a good one, I believe in.
Yes. Anything that stops Alliance from furthering their lead. We see the graphs have kind of plateaued right around that 5k golden experience lead, which is pretty significant, but not insurmountable. And it feels like it should be a lot more given it's 3-14. But Secret have been really doing an effective job farming around the map, even though they don't have a huge amount of map control, as Tiny is now level 11 and has the Ag Scepter. He can let the farming commence, and now the relocates are really scary. We saw in that fight Kuroki and Void off on the side. It was really just a man mode going blow for blow, and Void came out ahead, but Tiny showing us that he's a force to be reckoned with and will only get stronger, especially once he gets more points in Craggy. That's when Void will need something more like a BKB to really go man mode and not fall victim to the Craggy stuns. We will see a smoke rotation from Alliance. They find Puppey. Viper will start things off, and Viper strike for good measure. As Misery comes forward, connects with a fissure. Takes a brain sap, but it just doesn't matter. And Chance's totem smacks him in the face. Even a time walk forward as now Fly hops in. He's out of mana. That's a Chronosphere. Mystic Flare, and it'll end up being a 2-for-0. Probably should have just let the Bane fall.
Yeah, kind of a questionable jump there. There was pretty much nothing to be gained. There was no follow-up. There's no one he can solo like that, and he knew he was jumping into a Chrono, so.
Yeah, that's the second time now we've seen
That was
Secret
odd.
be very aggressive on Void when they should be at least somewhat confident there's a Chrono off cooldown or just about to cool down. Close enough where you should think twice about hopping forward like that. They will make a defense up top, though. Bulldog comes straight forward. Kuroki connects with an avalanche, but the time walk forward, he wants Big Daddy. Fissure will connect, and Big Daddy will fall. Kuroki's left all by his lonesome. Chessie is here laying in the right clicks, has a Viper Strike available. Kuroki does what he can, but it just isn't enough. Mech gets popped, And they'll all get topped off as it's another 2-0. Ownage is right, Mr. Announcer. Chessie now on a killing spree. Oh, boy. It's just getting worse and worse here for Team Secret, Sin.
Just imagine what happens if Alliance get 4 more kills.
Uh-oh. The dream is real.
I can already see it happening. Oh, never mind.
Well, the dream has
well,
died.
Now they need 2 more kills.
Yeah, 2 more kills. I guess the secondary dream is alive for sure. But Bulldog looking for some vengeance, perhaps. He has a Mask of Madness now. Time walks forward once S4.
Very aggressive jump here.
Yeah, follow-up just isn't there, and even pulls the TP to the mid lane as Big Daddy rejoins the party. But looks like Bulldog here will go for the Ag Scepter just to reduce that Chronosphere, and I like this. They have plenty of damage to dump into the Chrono, so lowering that cooldown is going to be pretty big for them coming into the mid-game.
But it also means he isn't getting the BKB we were talking about against the Titan. At least not anytime soon. And that means Secret have a couple of options on how to open the fight. I think it's very crucial to take out the Void so you don't get the Chrono turned on you. They have the Electric Vortex. Hookshot can buy some time as well. And then, of course, the Avalanche and Tiny can fight him face-to-face pretty much. I think if they were to just hit each other, Tiny would win the battle at this point. He is strong enough, especially with that plate mail. But I don't think Alliance will allow the fights to turn out that way. They want to be the initiators rather than counter-initiating to whatever extent possible. And the moment they have their ultimates ready, they can just go for it. Moonlight Shadow can be the initiator, and then they just jump in with a Chrono. Yeah, and now we see an Ag Scepter up on Chessie, so Viper strikes aplenty, a Blink Dagger on Misery's Earthshaker, and even a Maelstrom out on Loda's Marana. The item progression on the Dire side is looking pretty damn good. Arrow flies through, will be off the mark, but does just scout things out a little bit and keep Secret on their toes as they move into the trees, and Alliance continue to stay grouped up as the 5-man Dota commences. They want this Tier 1 tower mid, and maybe they'll find it here. There is a Radiant Glyph available. Will Secret choose to use it and make a defense is a completely another question. Viper Strike out on Kuroki. That'll zone him out. They do burn the Glyph, and they will go for a deny here. I think Alliance can just go up, press forward, commit to the tower. There's the Chrono, but Bane gets the deny. Nicely played by Puppey. It'll cost him everything and anything as he falls. Kuroki, he takes the Mystic Flare. In comes Misery with the dunk. Doesn't do too much damage, but it's enough to finish off Kuroki. It's a 3-0. Now S4 on the run. It's a 4-0. The only one left alive is, it's not Fear. That's Fly, and he's on the low ground. Takes a bash. Takes a fissure, and oh boy, it's a 5-0, a full 5-man wipe as Alliance set their sights on Roshan. We had a 420 somewhere along the way there, but that quickly passed.
Oh man, now things looking very grim for
Team Secret are just flat out getting outplayed in this game, outmaneuvered, outlaned. Even the individual plays, it's not just the decision making, but the individual plays, it just seems like Alliance are sharper today so far. A couple of uncharacteristic mistakes, I think, coming out from the individual players of Secret, and it could just be because they need more time to get used to playing together, but it seems like Alliance are just on top of their game. Even playing with these 2 new players that they've started training with, the 2 stand-ins here, it still looks like a very coordinated squad that know what they want in the game, whereas Secret, to me, seems a little bit more disjointed with... There seems to be no clear goal, if you know what I mean, in the game for them. It's a little more random how they're approaching.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem was really this Storm Spirit pick. We both saw in the draft it was a 4th pick Storm and kind of had that, oh, that's interesting. I wonder how they're going to work this in. And it's really backfired. Fly's level 11, now has a point booster. He's been forced to just get any kind of tanky item he can, not even going for the BKB. I guess this will be a Bloodstone, but I mean, him even completing the Bloodstone at this point seems like an ambitious kind of a plan to try and execute.
Yeah, I don't know what the plan is at this point. It's strange to see a game with IO Tiny where the IO Tiny lane actually goes pretty well, and they just seem to have there's no impact on the game as far as movement goes, and it's not because Secret are lacking opportunities to initiate, like as far as their draft goes, right? They have Hookshot, they have Storm Jumping, and they even have Fiend Script. Like all the 3 other heroes set up for relocate ganks. But they're just so contained on their own half of the map that it seems they never really got out on the aggressive here, Team Secret. And I don't think their lineup is that good at playing defensively, at least not with this amount of advantage. That speaks for itself. But they want to be the ones finding the openings, not the ones counter-initiating. Because when you counter-initiate into a Skywrath Silence, a Chrono, and a Fissure, there's just so many ways that it's very difficult to choose the avenue you want to go from, because there seems to be a counter in every single direction.
Yeah.
So if you don't jump and get a kill first, it just seems like you end up being counter-initiated.
Yeah, and then Moonlight Shadow really deployed. Secret are aware of it, but Kuroki, he gets caught by a poison attack. That sets up for the Viper Strike. He will get tethered to the Wisp, but Kuroki taking a lot of damage here. Relocate will save him. But that means Secret are on the back foot, and now Misery finds Puppey, connects with a Fissure, setting up for allies nearby. Void pops forward, has a Chronosphere, shouldn't need it just for a kill on the Bane. Brain Sap buys Puppey some time, but there's just no support inbound. Clockwork is off to the side near the side shot, but even if he hook shots in, it'll be to his demise, and will it even be enough to save Puppey? Arcane Bolt, enough to finish him off as Ake gets another kill up on the scoreboard there. And that makes it 4-24. Whoa, they almost find S4.
Thought he was going to go looking for him there. Looked a little bit like it. Now Loda. They're just taking turns at getting really close. But not going in.
Echo Slam on a solo fly. And there's the Fissure. They've got the stun lock to bring him down. That's another kill on the Storm Spirit. Great setup from Misery. And I just want to point out this stat right now. Misery is 2-1-17. He's been involved in 19 of the 25 kills on the field. And that is just damn impressive.
I think Misery is at his most impressive when he gets to play roaming. He didn't necessarily play completely roaming in this game, as he put the most of his emphasis on the bottom lane, but just the fact that he's hidden, if that makes sense. He always comes out of the fog and looks for the kills. He's not the visible kind of lane support. He is the surprise support who comes out of nowhere. We saw something similar.
Like that.
We saw something similar at ESL 1 this year when he was playing Bane, I believe, in the game against Vici Gaming. He was all over the place on his Bane, constantly moving around the map in the shadows and finding those setups for the team. And that's because of that. Heroes like Shaker, like Bane, are just perfectly suited for Misery because they just work so well with that playstyle. As okay, that's a dive.
That chrono. Oh god. They'll look for S4 here. Mystic Flare comes out, fly hops forward, creates some space for his Clockwork, but it doesn't matter. The poison from Viper still brings him down. Kuroki and No Tail coming forward. They get the kill on Skywrath, but now they'll get initiated on. Big Daddy goes down very quickly. It's Kuroki versus the World, and looks like the World will find the better of him. Toss on to Chessie, but he's got plenty of magic resistance with that 4 points in Corrosive Skin, and it'll be a 4-for-1 trade. This tier 2 tower will go down, and I think we could be not too far off of a GG. Secret don't seem to have too many tricks left up their sleeves.
Games that are 29-5 at 28 minutes tend to end shortly after.
Yeah.
I guess that's a stat that K-pop can agree with.
Yeah.
And it looks like it is going to be Barracks attempted here. Storm did survive that, and he is ready to jump in and do some harassment here. Puppey with an Enfeeble.
No buyback available
just
for
a little bit.
So he will be down for 20 seconds. Tier 3 tower falls, and Alliance will back out. They don't want to overcommit here. Chessie caught inside the Fiend's grip. The team is nearby. A long-range Fissure just barely connects on Puppey. It's enough to interrupt him, and they'll turn it around, and Chessie says, "You grip me, I've got support, man. I'll see your Fiend's grip and raise you a Fissure." How's that sound, Puppey?
And he even had the Aegis, so that kill wouldn't even have brought anything with it. If Fly committed to trying to get that kill, he might have got himself killed as well, so...
Yep.
I think it's just a matter of desperation at this point from Secret. They really just try to do anything they can. Now, they will probably get Chessie here.
Yeah, remember, he has the Aegis. There's the Chronosphere. Mystic Flare flies through, finishes off the Storm. Storm Spirit will buy back straight away. Bulldog now goes in onto S4. Chessie finally goes down. The power cogs are actually what do it. But there's the dunk from Misery. So much damage onto Kuro and Puppey, Kuro and No Tail, and they'll both take a tumble. Now S4 outside of the base. It looks like he'll get clicked down. There's only one left. It's Fly. He's scooting back to safety, and safety he'll find. They'll turn their sights onto Puppey. And yeah, he gets picked off. This is just a massacre. There you go. GG, well played. And Alliance, they just slapped Team Secret around in their debut, 35-5. It is a pretty one-sided performance here, Synderen.
Yeah, that game was not even close. Now, the question is if it's just, you know, any team can have a bad game. They are, of course, a new squad, and they need to start playing together. But as a first showing, I guess a little bit unfortunate for Secret here. I don't think it does their players justice because they have some exceptionally good players, but the team play, like I said, as far as having a goal in the game and finding the openings and the overall strategy of the laning just didn't really work in their favor, and the result of it is just a very one-sided game. Alliance have been really impressing me today, and that's not to say that we don't expect a lot out of them, but they are playing with 2 new players, and they were playing against, on paper, some really good teams today, but they just absolutely showed us who's... There was only one boss in this game.
Yeah. Yeah. Chessie had a flawless game, 10-0 and 11 on that Viper, and pretty much any time that happens, you know that the team with the Viper had a pretty damn good game. But you're absolutely right. It's not only that Alliance have stand-ins and that they've won their games today, but it's the way they played in the games, where if I didn't know they were stand-ins, I wouldn't really have guessed that this is a 3+2 kind of lineup. I mean, they're playing as a team. They seem to be on the same page, and their strategy just seems very cohesive, especially when you compare it to something like Team Secret in the context of this last game.
Yeah, I hope we get to see. I hope we get to see Secret bounce back in the up and coming games, because it's always unfortunate when you have a new team like this and you get a bad first showing. But it's been happening to lots of teams in the past. I have high expectations for this team. I think they will definitely do a lot better than this. But you know, it was a bad game. The lanes didn't work. The team play probably not at the peak just yet. But I still imagine we'll see them pulling up some really good performances over the next couple of weeks. So it's definitely a team to look out for, just on paper with their players and personalities. It's easily one of the fan favorites in the Western scene. So
yeah, absolutely.
Hope they get to pick up the pace.
Agreed. So we have one more game coming up today for our debut of Starladder 10 EU Division. We have Cloud9 versus Virtus Pro. That was a pretty quick game, and we will have about a 30-minute break or so till the next match is scheduled to start. It may start 5 minutes early or so if the teams are ready, but you have some time, guys. Hop up, get yourself a beer, maybe some coffee, depending on where you are in the world, and come on back, because we've got one more great game of Dota for our Starladder coverage today.